All right, friends, here we go. This is our first attempt at, that's backwards, the Pipeline series by C.L. Ramsey. And I'm going to read it to you. Start out with a couple little quotes here. Some of my favorite people. This one's by Benjamin Franklin. When the well is dry, we know the worth of water. This one's by Gandhi. First they will ignore you, then they will laugh at you, and then they will fight with you, and then you win. All right. So, chapter 1. We're only going to do one chapter a day. Chapter 1, The Problem. And I'm reading from the big hard book. I wish I had all of this in the smaller soft cover, but we'll do this. I'm ready. This is not a story about post-apocalyptic future. This is not a story about a possible dystopian outcome. This is a story about the here and now. This is our reality, the world we live in today. The tragic ending is already here. What will we do about it? That's the question. Many a wise man has said that the only thing that will bring humanity together is a common foe. Say, for example, an attack on Earth by some alien life form, where every corner of the world joins together to fight side by side like brothers. However, we don't have to wait for an alien invasion to join forces against a common threat. The threat already exists. It's already here, silently creeping in, daily, under the radar, looking like it's no big deal. But it is a big deal, and it threatens the entire future of mankind and all life on Earth as we know it. That foe is water, or should I say the lack thereof. The world is running out of it, and every living thing on this planet depends on it to survive. The author does not like a scary, tragic, and dark, frightening stories. Yeah, okay, I can't read out loud. Just listen. The author does not like scary, tragic, and dark, frightening stories with sad endings that leave you with a sense of hopelessness. So stay with me, please. This is a story about hope and world peace, a greater and brighter future for all mankind with less disease, less starvation, where countries work together to help solve the problems affecting all of humanity. This is my story of how we will get there. Let's take a look together, if you will, at our present day reality. And here are a few facts. Interjection. I wrote this book at least 10 years ago. This is before data centers. So, well, it's not written in, but we're just going to assume that data centers are written in. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. Okay, water. This is one of those headers. Water. That's what we're talking about now. The rivers, streams, and lakes are receding at a frightening rate. If you don't believe me, look it up. Look up Lake Mead just 10 years ago and look at it now. The Great Lakes, everywhere you look, water is disappearing. I don't need to tell you, the reader, that there is no life on this planet without water. Why is this happening? In layman's terms, it's because of urban sprawl. We have covered the ground with pavement and concrete. Therefore, when it rains, the water, instead of soaking into the earth, it runs off into the rivers and streams. No big deal, right? Wrong. When that happens, all the rivers and streams will eventually feed into the ocean, making the fresh water that fell into undrinking ocean water. But not before causing devastating floods that will destroy homes, businesses, and lives, causing millions of dollars in damages. Trees soak up hundreds of gallons of water each. So when massive amounts of water fall onto the earth, like during a hurricane, it's okay because the trees will soak most of it up, right? I literally write, are you with me? There used to be large stores of underground water called aquifers. Those are also disappearing because the water cannot seep into the earth. Because, see, it's hitting the pavement and running off into the rivers and streams. And that's running into the ocean. Most of it runs off into the ocean. The solution of turning ocean water into fresh water is not sustainable. That's what this book is mostly about. It's too costly. We cannot make enough to meet the demand. Also, the expense of transporting that water from coastal towns to the inland states is unreasonable. Imagine what it would cost a farmer to buy that water in enough supply to irrigate his crops. Now think about what that would do and how that would affect the cost of wheat and corn and everything else that eats wheat and corn, like beef, chicken, and pork. Also, imagine, if you will, the world's future will be like what the world's future will be like once water becomes a commodity. Once it becomes a product, it has to be manufactured in a factory. When corporations own the production of all the water used in the agricultural industry, what the effect will be on the cost of food. Okay, next header, droughts. Droughts are just as dangerous and costly as floods. When droughts occur, the cost of food rises significantly. The reason is that farmers have the extra expense of having to buy and use expensive irrigation systems. There is also the additional expense of shipping from where the food is to where there isn't any. That food needs to be transported. All this adds into the cost of the food that we buy. Droughts are also terrible for wildlife. During droughts, diseases spread throughout the animal kingdom. Many of those diseases can be passed to your pets or to humans. Government subsidies. Now, we're not getting political, and don't get political. This is a book about the world. Grow up. Government subsidies. Now, let's talk a little bit about our welfare system. I am in no way condemning anybody who receives government subsidies. Companies are closing and moving out of the country at an alarming rate. There are fewer and fewer jobs. With each passing day, there are only so many jobs to go around, and the cost of living increases yearly with inflation. It stands to reason that if there is a way to get money to feed your family, you will do just that. All of that comes at a high price for state systems of government. Prisons. Prison system is a non-functional system of punishment. Many people have strong and varying views of what needs to be done to improve it. But one thing that I think everyone can agree on is that there are too many prisoners. And the current system is not systematic to rehabilitating prisoners. State, local, and federal governments spend millions annually sustaining a broken system paid for with your tax dollars. World hunger and disease. Am I the only one who thinks by now, I wrote this way before 2020, am I the only one who thinks by now we should not be living in a world where there is too much food and not enough in some places, even in countries like the United States? People go hungry because they cannot afford food. Even families who are on government subsidies often do not get enough to feed themselves or their families. As it stands today, obesity, diabetes, and other chronic health issues are an epidemic in the United States because of poverty. Most families can only afford expensive foods for their families to eat. Most families can only afford inexpensive foods for their families to eat, foods based on corn and wheat. Fresh fruit and vegetables are already too expensive for many. The cost of fresh fruits and vegetables will go up exponentially after the water becomes a commodity. Those products will become even more out of reach when the price of basics like bread and pasta increase. What do you think that will do to the overall health of the people of the world? Natural disasters. There is talk that there are more natural disasters now than ever in the past. I cannot say if that is 100% true. What I can say is true is that the size of and the scope of the natural disasters are worsening. The reasons have a lot to do with the water shortage. Every year, federal governments spend millions, if not trillions, on disaster relief. We stand defenseless without trees or swamps to buffer us from tornadoes and hurricanes. We level mountains and put developments right in the path of these disasters. The worst and most costly problems of all in the United States is flooding in the east and fire in the west. Water. Water as a product. Let me explain what that means. There's plenty of water in the ocean, and we have the technology to make salt water into fresh water for use in homes and for use in agriculture. These facilities are referred to as desalination plants. The problem with this solution is that once fresh water has to be manufactured, it becomes a product versus a commodity. A product, by definition, is something that is made or grown to be sold or used. The issue here is that desalination plants will cost a lot of money to run and to build. The fresh water will be manufactured with the intent to sell. It would be nearly impossible to make enough fresh water to use for agriculture, and even if they could manufacture enough, what would that add to the cost of the food? It is unimaginable. Overview. This is a brief and basic overview of some of the problems humanity is facing. Mostly it's just a brief overview of some of the problems that the book addresses that are facing humanity currently. These are not issues that exist only in America. Similar problems exist throughout the rest of the world as well. This story is a story about hope and change. Instead of a dark and scary possible outcome, I believe in a bright future. I don't think it's too late for mankind. I think if we think outside of the box and stop repeating history, we can change the future, not only for us, but for future generations. That was chapter 1. The story with the characters starts next chapter. I'll have to record that one tomorrow.